Welcome back to CVM Live. It's now time for major stories in detail. And we begin with more on this evening's breaking news. The Jamaica Teachers Association has voted to accept the government's wage offer. After months of negotiations, which led to a sick-out, the parties have finally come to an agreement. President George Richards says the vote was a majority, and the offer will be communicated to the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, adding that it anticipates that the association will sign the heads of agreement next week. The JTA has now joined the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions and the Medical Doctors Association. Senate debated the clauses of the new Road Traffic Act with Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, highlighting a number of measures designed to deter motorists from breaking the rules of the road. Here's CVM Live's Joel Croskill with the report.
Leader of government business in the Senate, Kamina Johnson-Smith, says that the new Road Traffic Act will prevent those who ignore their traffic tickets from renewing their license.
The key drivers as it stands under this law, as it's put together now, is that a person who has not paid their fines or fixed penalties under this act will not be able to renew their certificate of fitness or their motor vehicle license or their driver's license.
Johnson-Smith added that the system has been designed in such a way as to prevent the likelihood of bribes to get out of traffic tickets.
That this system is going to be system generated, not discretionary, not manual, and therefore it's not going to be an option to try to drop our money in order to get around. Every year you will be confronted by the reality that you cannot progress in the system to renew your documents unless you have paid your fines.
Like Senator K.D. Knight, who proclaimed that the new Traffic Act was not being used as a revenue-generating instrument, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith revealed the intentions of the Act to reduce traffic accidents on the nation's roads.
It is care for the lives that are lost, for the families that are impacted, motherless and fatherless children, persons left paralyzed and unable to provide for themselves or their families because of unsafe road users, because of irresponsible road users. So when you have the buses and the robots and whoever driving as if whoever is the baddest and the wickedest driver, that they are the best, what we need them to understand that they are the worst.
Joel Croskill, CVM Live.
3 persons are now homeless after a fire devastated their home in the Yallis St. Thomas on Thursday evening. As CVM Live's Nicole Wilson reports, at least one resident believes that the lack of a fire engine at the fire station allowed the fire to get out of control.
Friday morning, May 11. What remains is a shell of what 3 persons used to call a home. The fire, which devastated the building, started around 6 p.m. on Friday. But before this house was fully engulfed in flames, a neighbor who heard the alarm arrived on the scene.
When we run come out, I see the grandmother cook on the stove. And I say, fire, fire, fire. When we go there, so now I look. We see the fire on the bed. Because the bed is like it starts from, on the bed.
The neighbor, with the help of others who subsequently arrived on the scene, managed to salvage some pieces of furniture before the situation became worse.
The stove. And then they will take out one bed and about 3 mattresses.
Okay.
When they start bringing the smoke anyway, they are going, then we have to come out. We couldn't face it.
Reports emerging are that the fire began when the 5-year-old occupant lit the bed linen on fire. This after his mother left him at home with her grandmother earlier that evening. The mother, who was still coming to grips with what had happened, said she was working when she got the news.
When I reached on the plaza, I was there selling, and around about 7 o'clock, I got a call from a friend of mine telling me to come home. I asked the person why, and he said because my house burned down.
At least one resident has cast blame on the lack of a fire engine at the Yallis fire station as to why the fire got out of control.
My cousin house just burned down a while. No fire truck now out the road there, sir. The fire truck supposed to out the road. No fire truck there, sir. Same like how the next house over the cross road there is burned down. And no fire truck. So I don't know what the purpose of the fire truck, fire station over there for dead, right? Right now, we plan to even demonstrate tomorrow for a fire truck come right over the station because no fire truck now there center myself.
Reporting for CVM Live, I am Nicoy Wilson.
In other news, the Special Economic Zone Authority of Jamaica, the Jamaica Customs Agency and the Tax Administration Jamaica signed a tripartite memorandum of understanding for joint cooperation to establish a framework for fruitful cooperation and exchange of experience between the three entities. CVM Live's Vaughn Thorpe has the report.
A three-tiered MOU that will develop a one-stop portal to facilitate information sharing among the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority, the Jamaica Customs Agency, and the Tax Administration of Jamaica. The MOU, which serves as a framework document, will also seek to institute service standards and policies under which the agencies will operate.
Recognizing that the special economic zones play a very important role in Jamaica's economic growth and the outturn of the Logistics Hub Initiative, this historic signing represents an important milestone in creating what we call a business acceleration center, a requirement under the Special Economic Zone, which will aid in facilitating business within the Special Economic Zone.
The launch of the Business Acceleration Center intends to improve trade facilitation and service delivery.
When the approvals are given by the respective agencies, it happens immediately and all our documentation is updated simultaneously. So the aim is to move from a 120-day period for approving an application towards a target of 30 days. So that's what the Business Acceleration Center will offer.
From the tripartite arrangement, a steering committee will also be implemented.
And we want to ensure that the underlying rules and regulations are seamless, so streamlined to facilitate and enabling special economic zone activity so that we can have the linkages necessary.
The signing of the Memorandum of Understanding took place at the Special Economic Zone Authority on Waterloo Road in Kingston. Vaughn Thorpe, CVM Live.
The opposition spokesman on education has lashed out at the Jamaican government for not being included in the consultations for the Higher Education Summit that began on Thursday. CVM Live's Khadija Thomas has the story.
I feel obliged to say that in the midst of what must have been a very broad canvas of views on the subject preparatory to this event, the opposition was not consulted.
Thwaites says the opposition is now requesting that adequate information be provided on the higher education legislation, as the matter is of importance to the educational sector.
Let's get it straight. No one side can bring about the kind of change that we want in Jamaica, you see? And therefore, we must make sure that we do not make assumptions or suffer from forgetfulness or hubris in ways that do not reflect that the children of Jamaica depend on those who are in authority for the ways forward, the opportunities for progress.
The opposition spokesman then went on to highlight the need for students to gain access to higher level education where they will be able to improve themselves and their society.
There will be no 5 in 4, or as I would want it, 10 in 7. There will be no achievement of those 2030 goals unless we achieve that. So access is key.
He says there are additional challenges that the educational sector needs to recognize and change, as it will impede the nation's growth and development.
Recently, I've had to be interviewing a number of graduates from the tertiary sector, and I regret that so many of them find difficulty in their command of the writing and the speaking of Jamaican Standard English. There are people with bachelor's degrees, and I fear to say master's degrees, from a variety of institutions who are unable to comprehend the grade 11 standards of mathematics.
Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
The Higher Education Summit was concluded today at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. In other news, the Jamaica Constabulary Force graduated almost 200 new recruits into the police force today. In a bid to boost the human resource of the force, the new recruits selected across the country are tasked by Security Minister Horace Chang to make a difference. Chang was the keynote speaker at the 116th graduation parade. CVM Live's Von Thorpe reports.
The new addition to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, giving a display at the passing out parade and awards ceremony held at the National Police College of Jamaica. After 6 months of rigorous training, the newly enlisted members of the police force have been tasked to assist with devising effective strategies to fight crime. Security Minister Horace Chang highlighted the plans to improve the efficiency of the JCF.
Criminals are now heavily in finance, are utilizing the technological advance of the 21st century to facilitate their illicit and destructive behavior. The police cannot be called upon to respond effectively without being appropriately equipped and trained. That is the policy framework which I work, which the government advances, and the Commissioner of Police will execute in their own right, this team. That is why I have mandated the Ministry to move quickly to complete information communication technology solutions and applications that will expand their capacity and improve the efficiency of the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
Recognizing the many challenges the JCF is facing, Chang added that the government will work earnestly to address them.
Acquisition of industry-specific 21st century equipment is a priority of the Ministry. We intend to increase the efficiency of the JCF by providing the appropriate tools to create a more comfortable and customer-focused force, but one that can deal with the challenges of the 21st century as criminals move in every way to undermine the states and, in fact, damage the police force.
A total of 195 constables comprising batch 116 graduated during the ceremony held at the National Police College of Jamaica on the Harmon Barracks campus in Kingston. Von Thorpe, CVM Live.
It's time now for regional and international news.
In Trinidad and Tobago, a Petite Valley woman was killed execution style outside her home early on Friday. 29-year-old Melanie Jones was shot once in the head at 2nd Street, Simeon Road. Police were told that Jones arrived at her one-room apartment around 10:30 p.m. Thursday. At around 2 a.m., neighbors heard an explosion, and when they checked minutes later, found Jones dead on the street. There was a wound to the left side of the head and a spent shell nearby. A district medical officer pronounced her dead at the scene. In Dominica, the government of Dominica has signed a $65 million loan agreement with the World Bank. On signing the loan agreement, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt promised the Washington-based institution to use the fund made available wisely as it rebuilds following the passage of Hurricane Maria last year, which devastated the country. The projects under the agreement will include emergency agricultural livelihood and housing recovery. In St. Lucia, 3 people are nursing injuries following an accident along the Millennium Highway. The fire service responded to a distress call shortly after 5 p.m. on May 9 to find a 3-vehicle crash that involved a pickup van and 2 minibuses. Here's more from HTS St. Lucia.
Speed may have been a factor in today's second vehicle accident along the Millennium Highway. 3 vehicles, including 2 minibuses and 1 pickup truck, were involved in a road crash that left at least 3 nursing injuries.
We responded to a motor vehicle accident around 5 o'clock this afternoon. What we found were 3 vehicles, 2 minibuses and a 4x4 pickup involved in a collision.
Now a look at news in Africa. The World Health Organization says it has recorded 2 confirmed cases of Ebola and 30 probable or suspected cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The country's health minister says 1 person has died of the virus. Al Jazeera tells us more.
A sober address to the Democratic Republic of Congo and beyond. Ebola is back.
Chers compatriotes.
Dear compatriots, since Tuesday, May 8th, the Democratic Republic of Congo is facing an epidemic of Ebola virus disease that constitutes an international public health emergency.
Health authorities only confirmed the outbreak on Tuesday. They were alerted when news travelled from the remote village of Bakoro to the capital Kinshasa that 17 people had died in the last 5 weeks from symptoms aligned with Ebola.
The outbreak declaration occurred after the lab results confirmed 2 cases of Ebola.
That's where we end regional and international news on Friday. I am Nicoy Wilson. Good evening.
Well, those were our major stories this evening. More news later. News Live in 5 with Joel Croskill. But in our panel discussion, the Finance Minister announces an independent fiscal council to drive greater accountability and transparency. But what does this mean overall for the economy and its function? Professor Damian King and Edward Garthy will join us in our panel discussion after the break.